Good evening. My name is Chinaemerem Joseph, and it is my pleasure once again to welcome you to today's edition of You and the Economy. Now, one of the goals pursued with dogged determination by practically most nations of the world is self-sufficiency in food production. And the reason is obvious. For political independence amounts to nothing if a nation is unable to feed its people with food grown or developed in its home state. In fact, unsettling developments that usually unfold in the event of unexpected twists in global security situations have shown that both the economy and living conditions of countries that rely mostly on imports to feed their people are put in great jeopardy when wars and conflicts cut off access to food imports to such countries. It is, therefore, salutary that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has pursued with uncommon vigor the ideal of self-sufficiency in food production and the attendant food security derivable from the attainment of that status for Nigeria. This is attested to by the President's mantra that Nigerians should grow what they eat and eat what they grow. On its part, too, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, is resolutely committed to promoting self-sufficiency in food production in the country in the discharge of the developmental and price stability components of its core mandates. Although the Anchor Borrowers Program, ABP, is the flagship intervention program of the CBN in promoting self-sufficiency in food production, other intervention schemes are deployed by the Apex Bank to complement the Anchor Borrowers Program in achieving that critical objective. One of such is the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme, CACS. In the last edition of the program, we did a story on how CACS was used to promote yet another ideal, curbing the expenses incurred in foreign exchange by the country on the importation of cassava derivatives. In this edition, we shall dwell more on how CACS is being used in another context to promote self-sufficiency in food production and also address the depletion of Nigeria's scarce foreign exchange on the import of cassava derivatives through the support given to another agribusiness company, RIPARIAN Farming Limited, to produce vegetables and cassava in exponential quantities. Here now is the story.
This 2,000-hectare farmland in Tibor, a serene village in the Imala district of Abeokuta North Local Government Area in Ogun State, holds great promise for the success of the Central Bank of Nigeria's unflagging resolve to make the attainment of self-sufficiency in food production in the country a reality. The expansive farmland was largely set up with funds accessed under a CBN intervention scheme, the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme, CACS, which offers loans to successful applicants at a single-digit interest rate among other favorable and business-friendly terms. CACS is one of the intervention initiatives adopted by the CBN in the discharge of both the developmental and price stability components of its core mandate, and it complements other similar intervention measures of the Apex Bank in the economy. The beneficiary of the CACS loan used to set up the expansive farm is RIPARIAN Farming Limited, an agri-business subsidiary of Assets and Resource Management (ARM) holding company. ARM itself is a leading investment management firm that offers a diverse range of asset management services to its diverse clientele base. In living up to the meaning of the word riparian, which means farming done by the waterside, The big farmland is located close to the Oyan Dam in Ogun State. To enable it to grow a wide variety of vegetables for human consumption and to produce and process cassava to obtain its derivatives that are widely sought after in the industrial sector, Riparian had applied for CACS in 2019. After a thorough appraisal process and convinced that the business goal of Riparian will further drive the realization of the objectives of the CBN in ensuring price stability in the economy, especially the stability of food prices, the Apex Bank granted the company's application. And the outcome is this massive 2,000-hectare farmland, which is being developed by Riparian in phases to grow different species of vegetables and also cassava.
Prior to getting the loan, what we were doing in our agribusiness was really advisory. We did a lot of advisory work for various farms across Nigeria. Upon assessing that loan, we now began our farming business.
As you were told, the two core business objectives of Riparian are the cultivation of various types of vegetables and the production of cassava. But for these objectives to be realized fully, the company's farm must be properly managed. As the experience of many highly successful modern farms has shown, it is more advantageous and efficient to manage and coordinate the operations of such big farms from an administrative base located within or very close to the farms, rather than far away. With the loan it accessed under CBN's CACS, Riparian was able to scale this hurdle. It did so with the acquisition of these containers, better known as porta cabins, which were arranged, fitted and equipped for administrative, storage and farm support purposes. The containers, 10 in all, positioned 5 to each side, form what is known as the Operations, Workshop and Service OWS unit of the farm. With the facility, Riparian was able to set up an administrative base right inside its expansive farmland, where its organic staff and those from its parent organization, ARM, who specialize in different fields of agriculture and agronomy, perform their assigned tasks to help the company achieve its business goals and objectives seamlessly and efficiently. The office segment of the OWS is roomy enough to allow for the conduct of meetings critical to the progress of the company. In addition to the office space it provides, the container facility also has a dedicated component known as RIFA, which is an enclosed refrigerated container used to preserve temperature-sensitive crops like vegetables. Yet, another way in which the CBN's intervention funds helped to put Riparian on a sound footing is the establishment of its greenhouse facility, which it uses to conduct greenhouse farming. A greenhouse is defined as a structure with walls and roof made mainly of transparent material in which plants requiring to be nurtured under regulated climatic conditions are grown, while greenhouse farming is a process of growing crops and vegetables in a greenhouse. However, greenhouse facilities don't come cheap. But once again, Riparian was able to overcome this challenge through the funds it accessed from CBN's CACS. The essence of deploying the greenhouse technology is to boost the quality and quantity of vegetable crops produced by Riparian so that yields can be exponential in quantity and the size far bigger than what is obtained when vegetable crops are produced under traditional methods. The company's greenhouse complex consists of 4 structures. The first, which is this one that stands alone and at the head of the 3 others which are positioned behind it, is a nursery. Here, the seeds required to grow different types of vegetable crops are planted in these tray-like platform in which they are subsequently nurtured into seedlings within a period of about 2 weeks.
Make sure that everybody is
The 450 square meter nursery has a peak capacity for the nurturing of 400,000 seedlings. When they become mature after 2 weeks of grooming, the seedlings raised in the nursery are transferred to 3 other huge enclosed tents that make up the greenhouse. There, they are transplanted and further nurtured. The 3 enclosed tents in Riparian's greenhouse, all sitting on 1,350 square meters of land directly behind the nursery, are used to grow the seedlings of a wide range of vegetables moved here from the nursery for transplanting. Each of these 3 components of the greenhouse can be used to raise 2,000 plant seedlings, bringing the capacity for the 3 to a total of 6,000. While some of the seedlings are nurtured into full maturity in the greenhouse, others are transferred to Riparian's open farmland, where they are nurtured in locations such as this one, until the stage when the crops they produce can be harvested. Officials of Riparian told You and the Economy that without the CBN, the critical greenhouse component of the farmland would have been difficult, if not impossible, to acquire. They therefore give credit to the Apex Bank for the game-changing facility, which they said made it easier for the company to pursue the realization of its core objectives with relative ease. To complement the activities carried out in its greenhouse facility, Riparian also set up this open field shade nets, which sit on 4 hectares of land right beside the greenhouse complex. The nets ward off strong sun rays and heat and provide a cooler shaded portion spread over this area of the farm, in which the company plants vegetables that can only grow in low temperate conditions. Even as they look rather simple and inexpensive, the open field shade nets do not come cheap, and their acquisition was made possible by the loan which Riparian accessed under CACS. Growing vegetables is not a stroll in the park. To nurture them to maturity, vegetable plants must be properly and constantly nourished with water and must not be made to rely on rainfall as their sole source of receiving water nourishment. This imperative, therefore, means that for it to survive and thrive, the vegetables components of Riparian's agri-business must not be short of water supply. Although the farm is located near the Oyan Dam, the distance between both locations still makes it impracticable for water to be channeled to the farm from the dam. Yet, the nursery and 3 growing components of the greenhouse require a minimum of 10,000 liters of water per day to nurture the vegetable plants being grown in them. This requirement does not include the equally large volume of water needed in the sections of the open farmland where vegetables are grown by the company during transplanting. And that is a task that is as daunting as it is expensive. Thankfully, this component of its loan application was graciously approved by the CBN. Today, the farm has its own dedicated irrigation water system driven by this huge water reservoir. This water pump station controls the distribution of water stored in the huge water reservoir. From the station, water is channeled to all the locations where the resource is needed on the farm without interruption. Consequently, the vegetable section of the expansive farm does not rely on rain-fed water alone to nurture its assortment of crops.
With the CBN money, we were able to build our greenhouses, which you have seen. We have 3 greenhouses and 1 nursery. We were able to do our irrigation. We partnered with Netafim, an international irrigation company, to do the irrigation system. So more or less everything that we did in terms of operations for the vegetable business was through the CBN loan.
Perhaps the most visible attestation to how the CBN's Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme, CACS, has impacted riparian farming is the cassava component of its agri-business. Emboldened by the loan it obtained under CACS, Riparian had swung into action to expand its cassava plantation at its Tibor village farm. The seemingly endless expanse of land now covered by its cassava plantation in the farm is depicted by these drone footage. As you were told on a previous edition of the program, despite the fact that Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world, the country still imports cassava derivatives used by companies operating in its industrial sector. This stems from the fact that more than 90% of the cassava produced in the country is consumed as food, leaving a very small percentage to be processed into derivatives for use as ingredients to manufacture end products in the industrial sector. This has in turn sustained an absurdity of sorts, whereby Nigeria, despite being the leading producer of cassava, still imports its derivatives, thus expending her scarce foreign exchange to service the imports. The CBN has therefore been positively disposed to initiatives to boost cassava output, so there will be more quantity available for processing into cassava derivatives. To contribute its quota to the success of the drive of the CBN to reduce the foreign exchange spent on the importation of cassava derivatives and buoyed by the financial muscle it derived from CBN's CACS, Riparian had taken another significant step beyond expanding its cassava plantation. That measure, collaboration with the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture in Africa (IITA), a globally renowned research institute in agriculture based in Ibadan, capital of Oyo State, to boost the production of cassava derivatives in the country.
Our relationship with RIPARIAN Farming Limited is such that when they wanted to expand into the cassava value chain, they reached out to us, we signed an agreement with them, we provide consultancy services for them, advisory services, farm management services, and then provision of seed for cassava for vegetable value chain. And when they had the opportunity to get facility from CBN, they was able to help them to also expand into the cassava value chain, because what was happening on the vegetable end encouraged the management to also say, okay, you know, let's do for cassava. And for cassava, what they're planning to do is to cultivate about 1,900 hectares of cassava across this entire span of land. But right now, for this year, we're doing about 200 hectares, which could also grow beyond 200 hectares if all things work together.
Besides giving Riparian the impetus to expand its cassava plantation through the approval of its CACS loan application, the CBN also impacted cassava business positively in the entire Ogun State through its financial empowerment of Riparian, even as it equally boosted the nation's production of cassava derivatives through the company. And here is how these laudable milestones were achieved through the instrumentality of the CBN. After it was financially empowered by the CBN, Riparian was able to go into another collaboration with IITA, whereby this mobile cassava processing plant was deployed to its farm. With a mobile plant, harvested cassava tubers are processed into cassava cakes right here on the company's farm location. The cassava cakes are then sold to companies that produce cassava derivatives such as starch and high-quality cassava flour. Those companies in turn sell their cassava derivatives to industries which use them as ingredients to manufacture a variety of end products. This value-adding chain has had the salutary impact of stemming the tide of the continued importation of cassava derivatives, all to the benefit of the Nigerian economy. In addition, by granting Riparian and the smallholder cassava farmers that surround it access to the processing of the cassava within their immediate locality, the significant benefits derivable from these advantages are enjoyed by these parties with positive impact on their bottom line.
That deployment of the processing machine has helped farmers. Hitherto, farmers will have to pay about 140,000 naira to move 1 ton of cassava, 20 tons of cassava out of their farm. By bringing that machine to their farm at the farm gate, we have crushed the cost of really taking their cassava out of the farm to the processors, because the mobile processing machine is able to come and convert it from cassava tubers to cassava cake, which is then transported to the factory, where the processor then turns into starch, flour, or other derivatives. What that has done is it has practically put money back in the pocket of the farmers. We then go away with cake, which is more, in terms of quantity, it's more value that you are transporting, rather than move cassava, which is 60%, 65% water. So that's the value that has brought, and that has also helped the farmers to become better people, because that's actually economic power you are giving to them.
What that does is it brings more money to the farmer, because it eliminates completely the use of logistics, transport logistics from the farm to the factory. It's also helped to limit the amount of post-harvest loss that farmers suffer. Because if you harvest a root and you don't take it to the factory in 48 hours, it begins to rot. And so most times, farmers lose about 30% of their entire yield by the time it gets to the factory. So what this does is you just drive this into your farm, and then it processes for you on the average about 20 tons of cassava root every day.
As with practically all its intervention schemes, the CBN attaches great importance to the ability of CACS to generate employment opportunities both directly and indirectly. Uche Azubike, Director, Agribusiness of ARM, Riparian's parent company, says riparian farming has met up with this critical expectation of the CBN. According to her, apart from employing people directly, big-time corporate customers who purchase riparian's vegetables have also been able to stay in business and keep their workers gainfully employed, while the company too is equally helping individuals earn income through direct sales of vegetables to them.
So before the loan, like I said, we were doing advisory. I think staff strength at that time were just about 4. Today we're over 40. Because of that money that we're able to access, we have also been able to do something for our community. Today we employ a number of people from the Tibor community, and because of that also, we were also able to help the community. So there's been a lot that we've been able to do through that loan. For our clients in the agri business, we have ShopRite, we have Eco Hotel, we have Rennies, and we have a lot of individuals as well. Part of the things that we've also started doing is now market-based production, which means that we go out and speak to our clients, and then we come back and produce what they want.
While the management team of Riparian Farming Limited is happy with the performance of the company, it is not resting on its oars. And, like Oliver Twist, the company has given notice of its intention to knock at the doors of the CBN again very soon to be able to access further concessionary loans from the bank. This time around, Riparian says that its objective is to expand the company's cassava business to produce industrial market derivatives like starch, high-quality cassava flour, HQCF, and sorbitol. That move will certainly require additional investments in land, agricultural machinery, storage infrastructure and logistics, and is one which will have further resounding positive impact on the Nigerian economy if the proposed initiative is managed successfully.
It's good to have you back. Variety, they say, is the spice of life. It is obvious that for it to have resounding benefits for society, the focus of food production must be multi-dimensional. Rather than focus on carbohydrates alone, especially because Nigeria's staples are dominated by that genre of foods, the CBN's support for self-sufficiency in food production embraces all manner of food that Nigerians are known to consume, including vegetables too. The support to Riparian is also unique in that it has helped to address a nagging problem in Nigeria's agricultural sector, which is that of systemic waste experienced by farmers with their harvest because of slow turnaround time arising from delays in getting perishable commodities to the market for sale to consumers or to processing industries for value addition. by empowering riparian to be able to afford to deploy a mobile cassava processing plant to its farm. The CBN has helped eliminate the problem of waste previously being experienced by cassava farmers operating in the company's surroundings and the Abeokuta axis of Ogun State. Riparian itself has been spared that ordeal. And given what you have just seen, the case of Riparian is yet another positive and laudable example of the success stories of the interventions of the CBN in the economy. We now call it a day on today's edition of the program. We thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Please do join us again next week when we shall examine another important subject on you and the economy. Until then, it's goodbye.